Sd.Kfz 251, the basic half-track armored personnel carrier of the German army during World War II, on the basis of which many other combat vehicles were also built. It was built in 4 production models from A to D and 23 basic and many field versions. The development program of an armored personnel carrier on a chassis developed from a half-tracked tractor Sd.Kfz 11 was initiated in Germany in the second half of the 1930s. Initially, the prototypes of the chassis were developed by the Borgward company, and they also produced their first series in 1937, after which Hanomag took over production. The chassis was eventually labeled HLKL6P Borgward or HKL6P Hanomag and other companies. Compared to the tractor HL Class 6, the Transporter's chassis is different in its frame, modified engine and radiator, fuel tank and steering devices. After the war broke out with the introduction of the Aus C chassis, apart from Hanomag, also began to be produced in 1941 by the M&H plants from Hanover, replaced in 1943 by the Adler, Auto Union and Skoda plants. Armor plates were manufactured by a total of 5 steel plants. The assembly of the armored bodies was initially carried out by the Deutsche Werke in Kiel, and then temporarily also Hanomag and M&H. The vehicle was designed Sd.Kfz 251 in the literature. There is a name Hanomag from the chassis manufactured. However, it was not used to describe the vehicle during the war. The first 11 transporters were produced in June 1939 and 232 had been built by the end of the year. Due to the insufficient production of armor plates, Borgward also built 305 unarmored transports in 1939 with a body made of ordinary sheet steel. Initially, the production of armored personnel carrier was small until mid-1941 did not exceed 45 per month, except in August 1940 when 55 of them were created. 347 vehicles were built in 1940 and 424 vehicles in 1941. It was not until July 1942 that production began to exceed 100 per month, and this year 1,200 transporters were created. From April 1943, due to the addition of a new producers, production began to exceed 200 units, and from September this year 500 units. It was also related to the launch of the Aus Model D with a simplified form of the body. Most 848 transporters were completed in March 1944 and 837 in August. Production at that time was hampered by frequent bombing of plants. In March 1945, 173 more armored vehicles were completed, after which production cases. In 1943, 4,258 transporters were built. In 1944, 7,785, and in 1945, 1,016. Sd.Kfz 251 was based on the Sd.Kfz 11 chassis. However, an attempt to adopt the chassis to an APC forced some changes. The steering wheel was tilted 45 degrees relative to the driver. The radiator was enlarged and moved. A new fuel tank was added, and the exhaust system was redesigned and repositioned. The new chassis was called HKL6P. The armor tool was mounted on this very chassis. It was made of welded armor plates and it consisted of 2 large parts joined by bolts. The front section ended behind the driver's seat. It protected the driver, commander and engine. The combat compartment opened in advance was to accommodate 10 soldiers. It could be covered with a canvas roof on 4 arches. The internal flange at the joint of both sections facilitate their crewing. The rear, large 2-part outward opening door allowed access to the interior. The hull was made of 14.5mm slabbed armor plates at the front, 8mm at the sides and 5.5mm at the top and bottom. In versions A and B, the frontal bonnet armor consisted of a 14.5mm upper plate inclined at 15 degrees and a 12mm lower plate inclined at a negative angle of 27 degrees. And from version C, it was simplified in the form of one 14.5mm thick hexagonal plate at an angle of 20 degrees. The plate in front of the driver was inclined at an angle of 30 degrees and the side plates at an angle of 30 degrees and 35 degrees. The armor was reveated or welded and was to protect against anti-tank rifle bullet from a distance of more than 30 meters. 305 vehicles were made in 1939 as unarmored, with a body made of 4mm thick sheet metal, protecting against ordinary small arms bullets from greater distances.